I found out my grandmother was living a double life that would make a secret agent blush. And it all started because she claimed being a teenager today is easy mode compared to her youth, so we decided to swap lives for a week. But tell me, would you have called the cops if you found what I found in her knitting basket? Or would you have kept her secret to save the family? I honestly didn't think a 70-year-old woman could cause this much chaos in 7 days. And now that the dust has settled, I'm left wondering if I'm the villain for exposing her, or if she's the mastermind I never knew existed. Before I get into the gritty details, I need to know, would you trade your entire social life for your grandmother's secrets? It all began on a rainy Tuesday when my Nana, Evelyn, was lecturing me about how I'm always on my phone and how anxiety wasn't a thing in the 1960s, so I challenged her to live my life. High school, social media, part-time job, and all, while I took over her boring routine of gardening, bridge club and early dinners. We drew up a contract, swapped phones, and I moved into her dusty Victorian house while she crashed in my room, wearing my oversized hoodies and trying to figure out how to post a fit check on TikTok. The first 2 days were actually peaceful for me because I thought Nana's life was just tea and silence. But then I had to attend her inner circle Wednesday brunch, and that's when the first crack in the facade appeared. These weren't sweet old ladies talking about knitting patterns. They were discussing high-stakes underground poker games and a distribution network for what they called the vintage medicine. And as I sat there in Nana's floral dress trying to act natural, I realized my grandmother was the primary bookie for half the retirement homes in the tri-state area. I spent Thursday digging through her basement, finding ledgers hidden behind jars of pickled beets that documented thousands of dollars in donations that were actually debts collected from people who looked like they wouldn't hurt a fly. I discovered that she wasn't just some grandma who liked bingo. She had organized a sophisticated system where the elderly lost their pension money to her in exchange for leaked gossip and protection from the nursing home bullies. It was a complete shadow economy operating right under our noses. And every time I turned a page in those dusty journals, I saw names of local politicians, and even the chief of police's mother listed as regular clients. To reach the depth of this madness, you have to understand the sheer volume of her operation. Every drawer in that kitchen wasn't filled with silverware, it was filled with collateral. I found gold watches, vintage fountain pens, and even property deeds tucked inside old flour sacks. Nana wasn't just playing a game. She was running the neighborhood. I spent the better part of Thursday afternoon realizing that her knitting club was actually a front for a massive money laundering scheme where they used handmade sweaters to hide cash being shipped across state lines. The sheer complexity of it made my head spin. While I was struggling to understand her filing system, which was color-coded by how likely a person was to snitch, she was absolutely thriving in my world. My phone was blowing up because Nana had apparently become the most popular girl in school by using her old world wisdom to roast my bullies so hard they literally left the cafeteria in tears. And she even managed to get my crush to ask me out because she wasn't afraid to be blunt. She was attending my chemistry labs and somehow making the teacher laugh, while I was sitting in a circle of octogenarians learning how to launder money through a local bake sale. She had somehow mastered my TikTok account, gaining 10,000 followers in 48 hours by doing grandma advice segments while wearing my clothes. It was surreal to see my own face on screen talking about how to spot a scrub and why modern dating is a scam. Meanwhile, I was knee-deep in her garden, but I wasn't planting petunias. I found out that the fertilizer bags in the shed were actually filled with shredded documents from 1998, a paper trail of her early days in the business. I spent hours trying to piece together a map of her contacts, realizing she had runners in every bingo hall from here to the coast. The deeper I went, the more I realized Nana wasn't just a bookie. She was an architect of a social revolution for the elderly. She had created a world where they weren't forgotten, but feared. By Friday, I was exhausted from trying to manage her illegal gambling empire, while she was out at a warehouse party using my ID, acting like the teenage rebel she never got to be. I found myself frantically answering burner phones that were hidden in hollowed-out romance novels, trying to explain to a guy named Big Sal why the delivery of homemade oatmeal cookies, which were definitely not just cookies, was going to be late. The cookies were actually a coding system for localized sports betting. Oatmeal meant basketball, chocolate chip meant football, and raisin meant someone was about to get their tires flattened if they didn't pay up. It was a complete role reversal where I was the stressed-out adult worrying about the mortgage and the business, and she was the one coming home at 2 a.m. smelling like cheap perfume and energy drinks. I spent my Friday night deciphering a ledger that looked like a regular recipe book, only to find that 2 cups of sugar meant $2,000 and bake for 30 minutes was a deadline for a drop-off at the park. I realized that my Nana didn't hate my generation. She was jealous of it, and she was using this swap to live out a wild streak she'd suppressed for 50 years. She was taking my Instagram followers on a journey, posting stories of her rebellious teenage life that were getting thousands of likes, while I was at home soaking my feet in Epsom salts because my back hurt from pulling weeds in her garden that turned out to be a graveyard for old hard drives. The mental toll was getting to me. I found myself checking over my shoulder every time a black sedan drove past the house. Was it the feds? Was it a rival bingo captain? I didn't know anymore. I even found a false bottom in her jewelry box that contained a passport with a different name, and a picture of her from 30 years ago, looking like a high-stakes gambler in Vegas. My head was spinning with the implications. Had she always been this person, or did the boredom of retirement turn her into a criminal mastermind? I spent Saturday morning trying to scrub coded messages off her front porch that had been left in chalk by the local delivery boys. But things took a dark turn when a man showed up at the front door on Saturday morning asking for the matriarch and demanding his cut of the poker pot. And I realized I was in way over my head. This guy looked like he belonged in a movie about the mob, and he didn't care that I was a 17-year-old in a wig and a housecoat. He wanted his money, and he knew Nana had it stashed somewhere in the house. He started describing things about Nana's past that I never wanted to know. Stories of high-speed chases in the 80s and a legendary heist at a local casino that was never solved. He claimed Nana owed him for protection that she hadn't paid for in months because she was too busy playing house with her grandkids. I had to navigate a 3-hour conversation about territory and respect while offering him Earl Grey tea and lemon bars, praying he wouldn't notice my trembling hands or the fact that I didn't know the password to the floor safe hidden under the cat's litter box. Every time the cat meowed, I thought my heart was going to stop. I had to fake a cough and pretend to be an eccentric old woman just to keep him from searching the premises. I had to make a choice. Do I call my parents and end the experiment, exposing Nana's criminal side hustle, or do I try to handle a mob-like debt collector while wearing a pearl necklace and a cardigan? So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice between family loyalty and my own safety. Before I tell you what happened next, and how I finally confronted her at the school dance, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have protected your Nana's secret empire or snitched to save yourself? The climax happened Saturday night when I tracked Nana down to my own high school's formal dance, where she was currently winning prom queen as a write-in candidate because everyone thought she was just a really edgy transfer student, thanks to her makeup skills. I cornered her in the gym, showing her the ledgers and the guy at the door, and she didn't even flinch. She just took a sip of spiked punch and told me that if I wanted to survive in this world, I needed to stop playing by the rules. We had a massive blowout right there under the disco ball, where she admitted she started the gambling ring to pay for my college fund because she didn't want me to end up stuck and bored, like she was. She explained that she had spent her whole life being what everyone expected. A quiet wife, a gentle mother, a sweet grandmother. But inside, she was a firecracker who never got to explode. She had used the teen swap, not just to have fun, but to vet the next generation of her business. And she was disappointed I wasn't ruthless enough to handle Big Sal. The tension broke when the music slowed down, and she started crying, apologizing for putting me in danger, but also confessing that this week was the first time she felt alive since 1974. We sat on the bleachers, surrounded by teenagers who had no idea they were in the presence of a suburban kingpin. And we hashed it all out. We ended the swap that night, but the aftermath was messy because I had to help her liquidate her assets without the feds finding out, which involved a very strange weekend of burning documents and returning donations to confused senior citizens. We had to visit 4 different nursing homes to refund money under the guise of an administrative error by the bank. I had to delete all the viral videos she posted on my account because, while they were funny, they were also evidence of several misdemeanors. My parents still don't know the full truth, but Nana and I have a new bond now. She doesn't judge my phone use anymore because she knows it's my escape, and I don't assume her life is quiet because I know she's probably still the most dangerous person at the bridge table. I look at every old person at the grocery store differently now, wondering if they also have a ledger hidden in their pantry, or a secret past that would blow my mind. It changed the way I look at my own life, too. I realized I was so focused on the stress of being a teen that I didn't see the freedom I had. And Nana realized that being young isn't just about fun. It's about a pressure she wasn't quite ready to handle again. We eventually spent the next month cleaning out that basement for real, turning her empire into a legitimate charity for local seniors, though I suspect she still keeps a small poker game going in the back room of the library just to keep her skills sharp. If there's a lesson here, it's that age is just a number, but a gambling debt is forever, and maybe we should all listen to our grandparents a bit more, mostly to make sure they aren't running a cartel, or trying to win your school's prom queen title. Like this video if you were on my side and think Nana went too far, or if you think she's a total legend for living her best life at 70. Subscribe for more stories like this where the truth is stranger than fiction. And share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below, because I'm still processing all of this and I need to know if I'm crazy for helping her cover it all up. I'll see you all in the next story.